All right, hello again. I want to make a video about, inner strength and self-empowerment. It's always important. It's always a good topic, and it never hurts to do a little bit of that from time to time. So yes, with all further ado, well, let's just talk about that. I found lately, with the goings on in the world, we feel prompted more and more to deal with an accelerated state. As you guys well know, you're living here too, you get it. And being really strong and founded, grounded in the spirit, and contentment enough with your earthly life to the just enough to the point that you're functioning well, doing the daily necessities and duties and things like this, but always putting as primary your very self, the spirit entity that you are. And while gaining ground with yourself this way, and aligning yourself properly, and remembering things, recognizing things, and fulfilling yourself. We're meant to do this ongoingly as often as we might like. And we find ourselves in a place where sometimes we have too much, and sometimes we have too little, sometimes it's just the right amount. Nothing ever stays exactly the same, certainly not on the earth. But the more we empower our spirit life, then obviously we're going to have a better time dealing with the things that might come at us, without being overconfident about that, but hoping to be better equipped. So when you're trying to strengthen yourself, you're asking yourself, what is it exactly that you're trying to get? It's easy for us to use, common terms and catchphrases, enlightenment and wisdom and self-betterment and self-help and things like this. But we can accelerate a lot of things in a very, very good way when we actually are really doing it with the full intention to do it, and doing it in a style that really feels close to us. Many of you are like me. You probably have a very interesting thirst for different spiritual teachings and traditions, world knowledge, various sciences of various kinds, certainly the soul science, and looking at the mysteries of the world, ancient histories, aliens and technologies. Simple words we're using, but you know what I'm saying. I can probably say it in a better way than that. Aliens, but yeah, our star brothers and sisters. All that is and all that, or that will be. What is behind us, what is ahead of us. Well, to self-empower, you really got to find something that you find giving you life and zest, and enough of a challenge that it's not too easy, become too smug about it. A lot of you might be like me. I know that I'm guilty of having sometimes a scattered mind. I like to learn too much of everything, then I get in myself overwhelmed, and I have to douse myself a bit and just blob out and be a regular lazy human for a while. So, and I am anyway. So, but yeah, having a healthy way in which we approach. So I guess what I'm trying to say for all that weird introduction, I never know really how to start these things, but unless you're going at a flow that's good and giving you a benefit and happiness, while you appreciate the necessity of the struggle, if you're approaching it in the modality of being ready and open while retaining your best to be a good person, to be whole, once again we say holy, to be whole, and to follow the path of righteousness, then we gain so much life this way. We gain so much access to ourself, to our true core, our real integral self. Take away what you look like, your face, and preferences for different styles, and these things like that. Ultimately, you take away all shapes and forms, and you have a dazzling light. You have the radiance of the Almighty, and we are very much an extension and a very living essence of this. We are a soul factor in the universe, if you want to put it that way. So I'm finding more and more, and I'm suggesting it for the people, really to do the things that empower you and strengthen you, that are enjoyable for you. And sometimes that also comes with the wisdom of understanding that we can do a few things that aren't necessarily always easy, or not as easy as we might like them to be. We're living in a lazy culture in some cases, where we want the quick, easy fix, as you guys know, but it's not always going to be like that. And oftentimes, yes, the best results come when we put in a little bit of a struggle and an effort, and we see what maybe was painful 10 years ago pays off in the now, or it will very shortly. For example, you might go, oh, all those hardships I endured, now they're paying off. Like, you went back to school or something, and all of a sudden you say, oh, it sucked and it was hard in the time being, but then all of a sudden, poof, well, it paid off well. And or such as it could be with anything. I'm just using that as for an example. Or training your body to be healthy and strong again, and it seems like it can be an uphill battle, but all of a sudden you are in a very wonderful spot. So these are the things that we can do. So frame of mind is obviously important. That should be a given, of course. If you want to self-empower, you must realize that you're worthy to do so, and you don't need to gain the permission of any other human being to do so. You don't need an authority, you don't need some public figure, you don't need a religious person of some status, you don't need anything. Your connection, your God-given right to connect with all that is yours, and it's free. That's the best part. Totally free. The best things in life are absolutely free, and the human machinations, however you want to pronounce that, those are the things that cause us stress because someone's trying to gain off the misery of others, or out of ignorance is causing harm without even knowing it sometimes. So the human life and the things we do here, we try to have order and control and different things, and it's necessary to some degree, not all degrees, but we're causing more stress than we need to. So it's hard to self-empower when we're bombarded since we're young children, especially nowadays, with all these things that try to get us belittled and addicted to this, that, and the other. Some of which are interesting and creative ideas, and some are just which are just traps to feed off insecurities to make money. So some people are very petty, and they still value very much dollars and gold and little things like this over human life, over life itself. They're honoring materials and temporary little goodies and scruples and baubles over life. What is wrong with this picture? So as a result of this attachment and such, we find ourselves often disempowered. So apart from what the world wants to say to you, get that out of the way, whoosh, whoosh, how do you want to do it for yourself? Do you want to gain access? Do you want to have a wonderful identity with yourself and a remembrance of what you really are? Because you can easily do it, our innate ability. Self-empowering can be very easy. You're going to find a way to take time to explore various things. I recommend highly meditation, whether you want to do it as active or passive, whether you want to do a meditation as a simple walk in the woods or in a public park somewhere, something like this, and breathe with yourself and slow everything down and realize a lot of the thoughts and the moods and the feelings and all this stuff is just based on the temporary things, our conjecture, our ideas, and sometimes on our very real drama and situations and scenarios, surely. But all of it is the flux, all of it is the temporal that is affecting our ever-present nowness. We often do a backwards thing. It's like, it's ironic that we call, ghosts the dead, whereas we are literally the walking dead. The body is dead and dying for all of its beauty, for all of its hilarious functions and all these things. Well, we are actually the dead ones, and the spirits could say, well, we're alive, you guys are the ones locked in that walking meat suit, as you must need, and they'll incarnate again probably. But we go through all these things, and it comes down to, well, how do you wish to identify yourself, and how do you wish to access? For example, it's been said in the Tibetan Book of the Dead that even if a very foul, dark, sinister spirit, if they remember the Buddha at death and they go, oh my God, my reality is that, what have I done? Then you'll remember your true nature and you'll wash away a lot of things. And of course you'll pay it forward in your next lifetimes or so, but at least you'll have that flash memory, that instant, oh my God. So sometimes we're waiting for that oh my God moment, and then we can say, well, what can I do with this? So I'm going to recommend the healthy dialogue and the meditations. I'm going to recommend using techniques that work. You can look into various spiritual techniques. There's so many religions out there and spiritual pathways, as you very well know. Some are maybe better suited than others for self-advancement. Some give more the comfort of stability, of repetition and tradition. Others are more wacky and chaotic. There's all different kinds. Not all of which are necessarily equally, well, as I said, suited to helping you ascend the ladder and the rungs of enlightenment, if you want to put it that way. But when you do things that are authentic and that are common to all, this is probably the best and fastest way. The reason why we like to look at the oldest spiritual traditions possible and see the source, see the connection, see where they came from, see the altruisms thereof, see the final authority of some of these universal truths, if you want to put it that way, such as karma, such as light and dark, such as elemental forces at play, earth and fire and wind and water, and the spirit inhabiting it and shifting it and moving it and having a cohabitation with it. Well, all these things that lead to our realization that some things eternally are and will be, while within the eternal truths that don't change, there is the movement and the alteration within the pathways, the styles, the varieties, but those lingering truths in the now will always be. So when we get in aligned with those things, our self-empowerment becomes rapid fire, becomes more hastened, and sometimes we'll need to take breaks where we can get overwhelmed sometimes. But when we look at these things as integral truths, that sets us off on the right foundation, and then the rest we can play with it, because meaning to say, when we have the deepest foundation, when we have realization of our true nature, our unlimited access to thought and being, and our ability to how should we say that? Our ability to sort of peek into the mind of God, as it were, and realize that we're reflecting back what is reflected to us, and so like ourselves and the divine source of life having a weird interplay of mirrors and showing, okay, that's me, that's you, but it's the same, and ultimately, while these things change, really nothing really changed at all, nothing really moved at all, and your highest self is very safe. So this is a good basis of starting self-empowerment, is to realize your true nature, and if you're aligned with the light, you have a free pass to keep accessing higher levels and walking into the light. As it is said in the path in the Book of Thoth, the Emerald Tablets, onwards and onwards into the light, down into the halls of Amenti. So forever onwards into the light, following the path of God that is endless, and realizing, oh, well, I too am that which is, I also am that. And I'll keep learning and purging and digging and finding myself and having these enlightened moments. So finding those integral truths, finding ways in which you can find your warrior essence. So what gives you empowerment to stand firm? And it doesn't necessarily mean to be violent. You can see in the background I have a sword. I have a small collection of weapons. I'm not looking to kill anybody, but it's if I do a certain practice, or just in the comfort and silence and quiet of my own home, that gives me my ability to focus my will. And what am I chopping? I'm cutting through the air, but I'm cutting my own negative thoughts. I'm fighting against obstacles that are real or unreal, but I'm nonetheless finding a way to sort of sift through it. I'm using that as a very funny, very real example, because in my particular case happens to be true. Maybe my own warrior aspect likes to do those things. But you may find the same pathways with various magic things, magical arts. There's obviously a vast body. You'll start to put the pieces together too. In particular, when you look at the different spiritual traditions of the world, if you reverse them and go back to the sources of where they got them from, you'll see that they have a very few differences, and they all kind of come back to like the same sort of theme. For example, you look at in the Norse tradition, in the Viking mythologies, and you have Odin, the Allfather. But Odin also comes from the earlier Wodan or Wotan, which comes from Votan and goes back to older gods that come from Atlantis and things like this. So look, by giving that very small example, what I'm saying is, when you look at all the different world spiritualities and traditions, look at the similarities, see the basis on which they've derived from. Do it through study, do it through genuflection and thinking about it. Do your homework, as it were, and find out, once again, as I was mentioned not so long ago in the video, come back to that which is more common to all. And when it's common to all, then we realize, well, it has a strong semblance in being held more permanently in the mind of the divine, or in the mind of the universe, so in the hand of God, if you want to put it this way. So it's a stable, sure thing, more so than just a random one-time, one-line little utterance or thought process or something like that. So look at the traditions and empower yourself with the knowledge. Excuse me. Trying to fight down earlier dinner, just a little air and such burps. Sorry about that. chocolate almond drink for the win. There we go. So yeah, finding yourself in a state where you look at the commonality of things and you can sift through. You can certainly still, have a happiness in retaining your right to be an individual. The more we sort of sit in the soul and uncover ourselves, realize we are part of the great all. So in the higher levels there are beings who would belong to such a thing like, as they call in the intergalactic family of beings, physical and other. Well, yeah, the great brotherhood of light, or call it what you will, and the solar brotherhood and things like this. Just meaning to say, well, in the end, we can sort of agree that it's all really the same thing. So you can retain your right to be an individual, but take the great comfort in knowing that we're part of the all. We belong. We have family. We have friends in high places, seen and unseen, human and other, biological entities and not so biological entities. And the swiftness in which the divine entities can speak with us is really quite something sometimes. I want to say that you have an access and a divine right to make your prayers and to call upon the entities that are to give us beneficial blessings and boons and guidance. Simple as that. I can testify that under various names and aspects, they're all sort of just faces and shades of the highest God, but let's just say I can testify with all truth and humility right before you and say that there are certain gods and goddesses that are real, and they will answer to those names. You can look at how they're stylized in different cultures, even if it's the same entity, like, oh, in this religion she's called that and that one she's called that, but really it's like the earth goddess, for example. So yeah, I can say that the goddess format can answer in the old Celtic calling of the name Ceridwen. She's a very real goddess, and that was the Welsh rendition of one of the early earth goddesses, and maybe later on bastardized or changed throughout the annals of history or whatnot, but the essence was kept pure, I believe. Anyways, this entity is real and can respond to that naming thereof. The god Shiva, that entity will answer to that name. Often will show you a blue light, can maybe touch you or contact you in some way, say, yeah, I'm here. The Archangel Michael, also very real. That entity may use that name. You may use that name to call upon that power, whatever names that they really might prefer. But nonetheless, what I'm saying is, by these few meager examples, it's real and you have access to this, and you may indulge into this and see if it's true. And this will self-empower to know that you're not alone, and that even in your darkest hour and in your complete solitude, there are beings apart from your own spirit guides and guardian angels and such, but there are very strong beings that can and will assist you, and they're very real. So this, I promise, many of you already know this. You probably had some interesting encounters yourself, or have some understanding of these things in your own unique way. So these are things we can do. I can also very much testify to the wonderful blessing and strength of the power animals. I have a lot of them, sometimes one, sometimes the other. Some of them will be more for like grounding and strength. Others can be more for like being more free, more like a bird, quite literally. Even mythological creatures, unicorns, phoenixes, dragons, they're all very real. They exist in the world of ideas in the mind of God, and they have spiritual imprints and astral essences and realities in which they do operate and do exist for sure. But yeah, we often fantasize it and put funny little renditions and our own little artworks of them, and maybe they're not always so extremely accurate, but nonetheless we're exercising our own creative ways, because God is also learning additional creative potencies via and through, with and as us. So that's very interesting. It's such a unique interplay. So finding your grounding, doing some meditation, doing some research, gaining power animals, gaining the favor of angels and the gods and goddesses, they're very real. Realizing that you yourself are also a god or a goddess, and you are an immortal child of the Almighty, and being merciful to yourself and having the self-forgiveness for things, and having the ability, without being cocky and competitive with people, but having the ability to increase and grow and thrive as a person, to do those things. Oftentimes the littlest things, and I said it in the video just before, my little just saying hi type video, excuse me, that sometimes the littlest things, the teeniest, tiniest things, will give us huge benefit. If you can practice something in a small way, you can apply it to a bigger thing. It can be in simple things. How do you set up your or clean your abode? How do you tie your shoes? Do you wish to sort things out a different way? Create little tiny disciplines. And I'm saying this is kind of ironic because I'm a very sort of easygoing, I could be a lazy person. Oh, that's good enough to not to be perfect and just fold the corners and do all that. I often kind of laugh at that, but then I can have these modalities where I'm like almost OCD, like that needs to be like that. That's got to be like that. Okay, I got to give honor to that. Let's do that right. If you're gonna if it's worth doing it right this time, yeah. So little things like this can have incredible self-empowering ways, because if you start to get disciplined in tiny things, you indeed become more and more efficient at being disciplined in the bigger things, and thus create for yourself an ease in which you'll be able to sort of maneuver through the changes that you want to give to yourself, or the things that life is throwing at you. So I promise this, try those little things out, and they're big things as well, and see if it does anything for you. You may call upon the ancient names. You may speak to God in your own very unique way. The first language is vowels, so if you A, I, O, what is it? A, E, I, O, U, and sometimes Y, is that the old thing? Well, if you find yourself able to sigh or sing, or even just hum, then you're creating a vibration. You're empowering yourself with the power of vowels. Think about that, whether it's a baby crying or having an orgasm, but like, sorry if that's a little graphic or not really, I guess, but you're saying that your initial impression is vibration, is what you're emanating. So if you do these things, then you there's a reason why you do chanting, or the Buddhist mystics, for example, do a certain chanting. You're doing an om or an amen. You're doing the ancient sounds. You're doing the connection of things. Well, all these things help to attribute to our advancement, our stability, and refreshing, and constantly, just like we change clothing all the time and we change bodies every other decade or whatever. But yeah, changing your inner sort of soul impression, and how your life force, your vital life force, coincides with your physical body. Well, the vibration and the state of mind, the peace, the calm that you might have, the assurance of knowing that you're protected and welcomed, and sometimes it's okay to realize when we need to be chastened too. I'll throw that in quickly as well, because sometimes we need to be humbled and shifted a little bit, so we have a broader perspective, maybe be a little bit less self-oriented and more thinking about the greater picture, being sweeter to others, less of defensive and anticipating things, just sort of realizing that you're ultimately, you are already calm and stable. So when I have the mind catch up to the reality, man, I realize that in essence we are sort of immovable and pretty stable once we get our erratic mind and impressions sort of calm down, and we stop categorizing things in weird ways and just sort of ease into the all, as it were, while retaining our inner strength. So try these things, do these things. I've already spoken a lot here, I guess 20 some minutes. 24 minutes almost, 23 and a half. Well, find your way, find the things that give you happiness in life. You may find friends of yours that are down a certain path and they're very convinced about, oh, this is a good way, this is the greatest way, and they might tote how important it is. But ultimately, if something's working for you and you're happy doing it and you're harming no one, then you are on the right path. You are where you should be. If you have a curiosity or a fascination about something, explore it. Even explore your dark side. Explore once in a while, and I hope I don't say this the wrong way, but explore aspects of your dark mind just to see what's the root of it. Why do you think that those thoughts or impressions are there? Do you have certain perversions in your outlook about certain things? What's the root of that? Go and peel behind the layers. The ancient desert monks, the Coptic monks, the early Christian monks who were in Egypt, they had a funny and cool saying, and they said, you go into yourself and you unravel the serpent that is coiled around your deepest essence, and you sort of shed the skin that way. That which is hidden and coiled under even under the most subtle things. Or as David says in the Bible, Lord, show me even my secret faults, even the ones that I myself am not yet even aware of. What am I doing wrong? How am I not perceiving myself? What do I not know? How can I be a better person? And by doing these things, voila, we find great empowerment, we find that great identity, we sort of sort through things better. We realize I am not my body ego consciousness construction combo, and I am that so much more. And when you have this self-identity, you'll be really empowered and really happy, and more. Do the things that make you happy, my gosh. And don't make too many excuses for yourself. Don't make too many excuses for others. Find what works, find what coincides with your path, and you'll find wonderful empowerment that way. Search and you shall find. Knock and the door will open. God is there. God is good. All right, I'll just say that for now at 25 minutes plus, but wishing you guys the very best. Peace, namaste. Blessings abound. Blessed be. Amen. Catch you on the flip side, and I hope that you are doing well in your life. And if you're having some hard times, remember, they will pass. All things will pass. Time heals many things. Be kind to yourself. Please be kind to yourself. If you're not kind to yourself, you'll suffer, and you won't be able to be kind to others because you can be enduring too much of your own mourning and such. And I know what it's like to be there. So shed that off. Be light. Be like the light. Be the light. It's free and bright, and it destroys the darkness. And it shines even a tiny candle in a whole room of dark. Therefore, look at it. Poof. Illuminating the whole thing. So be that candle. Realize you have the unlimited internet access to the candle. And make yourself a happier person. And thus be empowered. I'll say that for now. Wish you guys well. And we'll catch you on the next one. Have a beautiful moment, my dear.